Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with London-based award-winning jazz singer, songwriter, pianist, guitarist, and producer Julie Neal. We talked to her about her latest 2021 CD, Black and White Volume 1. Comes out in the United States on July 25th, 2020. But her 2020 release of Black and White was halted in the U.S. due to COVID. It was released in the U.K. prior with much critical acclaim. Now it's time for the U.S. and to get her music to the people. Her neo-mellow sound combines her jazz approach with art-pop sensibilities, and the world is listening. In fact, in 2019, her music reached the ears of Bob Dylan, who handpicked her to open for his concert in Stuttgart as a part of the Jazz Open Festival. Her story is fascinating and still fully unfolding. Enjoy. Thank you for taking a minute out. You come very highly recommended, so I appreciate you taking some time out today.
Well, that's very sweet. Thank you. I mean, it's my pleasure to be here, so thank you very much.
You bet. So, your latest CD, Black and White Volume 1 in the United States, talk to me a little bit about, I guess, really ultimately what we need to kind of keep into context here with artists that are releasing new music is that we're in the middle of a global pandemic, and of course in America we're going through a lot of very charged, racially instigated things that are just really exploding. Lots of things are happening on the planet. What does it feel like to release material right now?
Well, I mean, this material has been coming out sort of staggered because of the pandemic. It was, I would have released it last year in America, but it was interrupted, should we say, by the sudden onset of the pandemic. So it's just the way it's coming to pass, so it is what it is, because the music can only sit around for so long, you need to kind of keep things fresh and keep things moving. So it just is what it is. And I feel that this particular record, like you say, we're going through, obviously in the States, it's a particular context, but, the racial awareness that's, people are coming into racial consciousness everywhere, I think, more so now. And so it just feels like, this message that I wanted to bring out. I already titled this record in 2019, so I'm just been waiting,
Yeah.
So yeah, this is it represented where I was at to come with that title at that time, and it just became more and more relevant as last year unfolded and now into this year. So
talk to me a little bit about, what do you want the listener, those that download and purchase this to feel from this artistic expression?
I want people to feel connected to a deeper sense of what it means to be a human being, so that they're not so focused on seeing people as other, but seeing themselves as connected to each other, no matter what people seem like on the outside, because we're all made up of the same emotions, and we're all capable of the same emotions, even if the context we might feel them in are different. So the idea really is that, the music should take us back to a sort of a core sense of being human, and therefore we can connect with each other easier.
Well, and I think the one thing about this pandemic is it's forced everybody to kind of get to a point where we put that mirror a little bit closer to ourselves and figure out who we are and what we're doing with everything around us. What have you realized over this pandemic about yourself that maybe you didn't realize? Maybe as an artist, as a person, that will make you stronger when we do emerge out of this?
Yeah, well, we were all, I think, guilty of just, rushing around, just doing, and being human doings instead of human beings. And if we were fortunate, the pandemic has given us a little moment just to think about the way we were living our lives, and to reflect a little bit on that. And so the same goes for me personally. Just the life of a modern musician these days is full to the brim of music, but also lots of other things besides. And sometimes you can lose that connection if you're not careful. Too much rushing around, too much focusing on things that are not the music, all the while trying to do the music. So I had more time to do music and really get more connected to that, and reflect, reevaluate why I'm doing it, and go even deeper, basically. So that's been precious time, and also it's given me the opportunity to think more deeply about what I want to say with my next record, because everyone, I want every record to come out for a purpose.
So getting to your roots of where you're from and how this all started, did you always dream about being a musician growing up?
I did actually, but it was not a very straightforward route at the same time. I mean, yeah, I'm not one of those people that can say, oh yeah, I grew up listening to all my parents' record collection, listening to music in the womb and all that stuff. For me, it wasn't really like that at all. I found my way to music out of a real need to go there and find solace. And so I guess it's that solace that I found that I'm trying to portray and try to give to other people if it helps. Although having said that, I was fortunate. I had already piano lessons from quite a young age, and when I was sort of about under the age of 10, I had a keyboard in my room, and we didn't have a piano at that point. And I had a keyboard in my room, and I would quite privately and get really into sort of making stuff up and get really excited. And I remember thinking, oh yeah, I want to compose stuff when I'm older. That's what I want to do. I want to do that. And then we got a piano, and that was obviously a great thing, but it wasn't going to go in my room. It was going to go in a more communal area. So then suddenly you've got the piano and you can't turn the piano down, and I became quite self-conscious about what I was making up, and it wasn't really the vibe to just carry on making stuff up in a communal space in my family home. So I kind of had to put that away until I then left home many, many years later. So, in that time I was still playing the piano, but I was playing like classical pieces and things that someone had already painstakingly composed, not like me trying to compose something. So, yeah, so I had to wait a little bit, but, that's how it was.
So who were some influences, especially jazz-wise, that really swayed you?
Well, I came to jazz pretty late, so I wasn't really aware of jazz at all until my early 20s around the age of 20 or something, when I came across Billie Holiday and Nina Simone. Actually, Nina Simone was later. Billie Holiday, Cassandra Wilson, Farrah Sanders, these were the first jazz names I had on my radar. And Leanne Carroll, actually, British jazz vocalist who was doing some stuff that made its way to me on cassette back in the day. And then when I did hear jazz, then it did instinctively speak to me and prick up my ears, and I felt connected to this music for reasons that I think now, thinking about it, is to do with just the individuality of the expression going on. Like, it's okay to be different. It's okay to be yourself. It's okay, just to do your own thing. And so that was quite a big impetus for me to draw inspiration from singular voices like that, who are just unafraid just to go out and just do something quite radical.
So what was the first live show that you ever saw that really made you think, man, that might be something I'd like to do with my life?
I didn't see any live shows like that, to be honest, because I didn't go to a jazz gig at all until I was doing the jazz gig.
Talk to me a little bit about, some heavy musicians that you've performed around that have influenced you, that have kind of resonated with the way that you either approach the stage or mentor younger players that you're around.
Okay, well, I mean, as I said, I came to jazz late. So when I actually came to jazz was when I started just doing it, really. And, I'm not trained in that way in jazz, or, I didn't go to jazz college or, that kind of thing. I just listened to some records and that gave me permission to do what I wanted to do. And then I got with, I was introduced to a jazz guitarist here in London called Johnny Phillips, and we started writing together pretty quick, and we were outperforming some jazz standards and covers of songs that I was quite into, and I was just trying to find my own voice at that point. But through him and through a saxophonist who I got to know as well, called Idris Rahman, they introduced me to other guys who would form part of my first band. So those guys, Johnny and Idris, they were in my first band. So I met those first, and then they were in my band, and then through them I got with Sebastian Rochford on drums, and amazing cello player called Ben Davis, and bass player called Tom Herbert. And these guys had all been to the top music schools, you know, and I learned a lot from them, you know, from being in my first context with them. That was the first context that I was in musically that I was, you know, going to really learn from, and yeah, that because I, you know, like I said, I was self-taught, and so these guys taught me an awful lot about music and just made me feel safe to explore the music, you know.
You know, I tend to ask the question of musicians, like, what award have you received in your life that was the most surprising? But as I read through your biography, I noticed that Bob Dylan heard your music, and in 2019 you opened for him. That had to be an enormous honor.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, that was just like, I got this message through. I'm like, what? So, oh, wow, that's insane. So that was like incredible, you know. What an amazing thing to do, to share the stage with him, you know, tread the same boards. Incredible, yeah. No, it was very interesting, actually. He has this ritual of, doesn't want anyone to see him, not even sound checking. So he has like a specially erected black tent that he sound checks within, and he doesn't tend to sort of hang out with anybody. So no, I didn't get to meet him.
Wow, what a fascinating cat. Every time I hear a story or an anecdote about him, it just deepens that whole like lore of Bob Dylan. It's wild, man. You know, as we reemerge into the world here, I'm curious, how do you think musicians are going to emerge stronger after this time away? I mean, there's been more of a reliance on production skills and technology skills, and there's been a lot of things. There's been Bandcamp Fridays and things that have kind of emerged. But how do you see the world of musicians coming back in a stronger way when we do reemerge to shades of what we used to do?
Well, I have no idea. I mean, I think that a lot of that will depend on audiences and the appetite among audiences to value live music in this time, you know, because some people are really scared. I mean, maybe I'm just talking about here, but I think, you know, much as people have missed getting together, there's still a lot of fear, there's still a lot of anxiety, and you know, you've got venues going under here a lot. You know, I'm in London, and it's a difficult time with people trying to actually just keep the venue alive whilst things are shut, and so there's going to be fewer venues for a start, and then those venues are still going to struggle because if they can't do outdoor gigs, not every single place is going to be able to manage that, because just, you know, the physical context of where they are, and so there's going to be problems on that front just to keep different kinds of music going. Not every music is going to happen in a huge hall that can take social distancing and you know, fewer audience numbers, and so it's going to be really hard. But, you know, I think on the plus side, a lot of musicians have had to really dig deep, and we're probably going to get some amazing music out of this period. So, yeah, I mean, it's just a question of how society values music in this time when, you know, so much of the economy of the industry has been based on the live side of things, and then how that will translate now. You know, there's kind of fundamental reforms that need to happen so that musicians and songwriters can get more fairly paid out of online things and online, you know, monies for people streaming and stuff like that. So there's a lot that's about to change, I think, in the industry, and it's always been, you know, at the forefront of these changes, and again, we're going to have to be the vanguard and see what happens.
What do you like the best about being a professional musician? What motivates you every day?
The realness of it, you know, because there's not really many contexts in which it's okay to be honest and you know, in this sort of fake world that we live in. So I love the fact that I just get to be self-expressive, and that people enjoy that, you know, it's just a real privilege.
Let's say you come to Kansas City and you perform a live show, and you really kind of have to
put out there what you do and how you sound live and kind of pitch your wares to get people to the show, how would you describe what you do and what a live show would be like?
I mean, I've been doing this for some time now, and you get kind of like people coming up to you afterwards and telling you how they felt it was, and there's sort of some running themes in what people have said, so maybe I'll just share those, which is like, people can get quite emotional at my shows. They say that me going deep and connecting with my emotions stirs something within them, and some, people seem to be fairly frequently moved to tears. So I guess you've got to be ready for that. And at the same time, people are, they don't leave sad. They feel the hope, they feel the joy. So, it's just quite a kind of, I go in deep because that's what I like to do. So, not all my songs are sad at all, but, whatever I'm expressing, I full range of emotions, I'll go in and hopefully bring that across.
So everyone has a perception or an idea of who they think you are, your family, your friends, and your fans, but ultimately you live your life. Who do you think you are?
I'm just a person trying to live an honest life and do the least harm and do the most good.
Beautiful. Julia, thank you for taking some time out for Neon Jazz. Good luck with the album and the return to the live stage.
Thanks so much, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest singers and players in London, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. Thanks to Julia for her time, music, and cool. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit Neon Jazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Till we meet again.
Neon Jazz.